The janitor pushed his cart slowly down the marble hallway, the wheels squeaking softly against the polished floor. Most people never noticed him. To them, he was part of the building, like the walls, the lights, the silent cameras watching from above. His name was Daniel Carter, 42 years old, a single father. Every night after his shift, he hurried home to make dinner for his 8-year-old daughter before she fell asleep, clutching her school bag like a pillow. Tonight felt different. The executive floor was unusually tense. Doors were shutting harder. Voices dropped when he passed. Phones buzzed and stopped abruptly. Daniel had learned long ago how to read silence. Silence meant something was wrong. He stopped outside the glass conference room to mop a spill left behind by a rushed assistant. Inside, the CEO sat alone at the long table, staring at her phone as if it had betrayed her. Evelyn Ross. Powerful. Sharp. Untouchable. Taki. At least that's what everyone believed. Daniel wasn't supposed to be there yet. Executive floors were cleaned later once the suits were gone. But an assistant had waved him in without looking up, panic etched across her face. As Daniel wiped the floor, his eyes drifted to the table. Evelyn's phone vibrated again. Her jaw tightened. She slammed it flat against the table in frustration. The sound echoed through the room, sharp, final. Something small slid out from beneath the phone. Daniel froze. A folded photograph, old, worn at the edges. Evelyn didn't notice at first. She stood pacing, rubbing her temples. Daniel hesitated. Janitors weren't supposed to touch anything, especially not on the CEO's table. But the photo lay half open now, as if demanding to be seen. He glanced at it. His breath caught. It was a picture of a young woman standing beside a man in a hospital corridor. The man lay unconscious in a wheelchair, a bandage wrapped around his head. The woman's face was tear-streaked but smiling, holding a handwritten sign that read, "Thank you for saving my life." Daniel knew that hallway. He knew that wheelchair. He knew that man. It was him. 15 years ago. Back then, Daniel wasn't a janitor. He worked construction nights and drove days, doing anything to keep food on the table after his wife died during childbirth. One rainy night, he'd pulled his rusted truck to the side of the road after seeing a car flipped upside down in a ditch. Everyone else had driven past. Inside the wreck, a young executive trainee was trapped, bleeding, terrified. He had crawled in through shattered glass, held her hand, kept her talking until help arrived. When the car suddenly shifted, he shoved her clear, just as the vehicle collapsed onto him. Crushed spine, months in the hospital. Years of pain. The company she worked for paid his emergency bills, then disappeared. Life moved on without apologies. Daniel folded the photo back carefully, his hands trembling now. He hadn't told anyone that story, not even his daughter. Some heroes learned early that silence was cheaper than truth. Behind him, Evelyn stopped pacing. "Why are you still here?" she snapped, not turning around. Daniel swallowed. "There was a spill, ma'am." She turned, irritation sharp in her eyes. Then she saw the photo in his hand. Her face drained of color. "Put that down," she whispered, her voice suddenly unsteady. Daniel placed it gently on the table. He didn't explain, didn't accuse, didn't ask for recognition. He simply stepped back, ready to disappear again. But Evelyn was shaking. "That man," she said slowly, staring at the image. "Where did you get this?" "It fell out when the phone hit the table," Daniel replied quietly. Her eyes lifted to his face for the first time, not as a CEO looking at staff, but as a woman seeing a stranger. Then recognition sparked, faint but unmistakable. "No," she breathed. "That's impossible." Daniel met her gaze, calm but heavy with memory. "You were wearing a blue jacket." "It was raining. You kept asking if you were going to die." Her knees hit the chair behind her. She sat down hard. "I looked for you," she said, voice breaking. "They told me you refused compensation, that you vanished." "I didn't vanish," Daniel said. "I just healed slower than the company moved." Silence swallowed the room. Evelyn covered her mouth, tears spilling freely now. "I owe you everything." Daniel shook his head. "You don't owe me anything, ma'am." "I did what anyone should." She laughed bitterly through her tears. "No, you did what no one else would." Her phone buzzed again. She didn't look at it this time. "They're pushing me out," she admitted suddenly. The board. The same people who buried your case. They want the company clean, no liabilities, no loose ends. Daniel listened. He had spent years cleaning messes other people made. This was just another one. They framed me for embezzlement, she continued. That phone, it holds proof. Audio files, emails, confessions. I was going to hand it to legal tonight. Daniel glanced at the phone, then back at her. And now? And now I'm terrified, she said honestly. Because they know. Footsteps echoed outside the room. Voices. Security. Evelyn's hands trembled as she reached for the phone again. Daniel stepped forward, not loudly, not dramatically, but with quiet certainty. Ma'am, he said, placing his hand over the device. Let me help. She looked at him, confused. How? Because, Daniel said softly, I've survived worse than powerful people trying to erase me. The door handle began to turn, and for the first time in a long time, the invisible man stood exactly where he needed to be. The door opened halfway before. Daniel moved. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice. He simply reached down, unplugged the charging cable from the wall, and slipped the CEO's phone into the deep pocket of his janitor jacket. The motion was so ordinary, so unremarkable, that no one would ever think to question it. 2 security officers stepped in. Followed by a man in an expensive suit Daniel recognized immediately. Marcus Hale, board member, the kind of man who smiled without warmth and shook hands, like he was measuring your worth. Evelyn, Marcus said calmly, eyes scanning the room. We were worried. You didn't answer. I was busy, she replied, forcing her voice steady. Marcus's gaze landed on Daniel. Why is he here? He's cleaning, Evelyn said. Like he does every night. Marcus nodded, but his eyes lingered too long. We'll take it from here. Daniel pushed his cart toward the door without argument. As he passed Marcus, their shoulders brushed. Marcus stiffened, instinctively patting his pocket, then relaxing when he felt his own phone still there. Daniel disappeared into the hallway. Security stayed behind. Voices lowered. The door shut. Evelyn sat alone again, this time without the evidence she'd been clinging to minutes earlier. Panic surged, but beneath it, something stronger formed. Trust. She knew Daniel wouldn't run. Daniel moved through the building with purpose, not fear. He took service elevators, avoided cameras he had memorized over years of cleaning nights no one else wanted. People thought janitors were invisible. They forgot invisibility was a skill. In the maintenance room, he removed the phone and powered it off. Then he waited. 30 minutes later, his own phone buzzed. A single message from an unknown number. Loading dock, now! Daniel pushed his cart out like always, nodding at guards who barely looked up. Outside, a cold wind cut through the concrete maze. Evelyn stood near a black sedan, coat pulled tight, eyes scanning the shadows. She exhaled when she saw him. You shouldn't be here, she said. Neither should you, Daniel replied, handing her the phone. She took it carefully like it was fragile. They know I have it. They know you had it, he corrected. She hesitated. Why are you helping me? Daniel looked past her at the city lights. Because 15 years ago you survived. And because people like them count on men like me staying silent. Evelyn's eyes filled again. I never said thank you. You're saying it now, he said. Before she could respond, headlights flared. Another car pulled in, too fast, too deliberate. Marcus stepped out, anger stripped of its polish. Evelyn, he said sharply. This ends tonight. Security guards moved closer. Evelyn straightened. It already has. Marcus laughed. You think a janitor can save you? Daniel met his gaze for the first time. I don't need to save her, he said. Just tell the truth. Marcus sneered. Truth doesn't matter without power. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small recorder. Old, scratched, cheap. I learned that lesson a long time ago, Daniel said calmly. So I borrowed some power. He pressed a button. Marcus's voice echoed from the device, clear, unmistakable. Instructions to falsify records, to pin theft on Evelyn, to bury an old lawsuit involving an injured construction worker. Daniel. The guards froze. Evelyn stared at Daniel in disbelief. When did you... Every night, Daniel said quietly. People forget who's in the room when they talk. Marcus lunged, but one of the guards stopped him. Another guard raised his radio. Evelyn didn't smile. She simply watched the man who tried to erase her unravel under the weight of his own words. The fallout was swift. By morning, Marcus Hale was under investigation. The board scrambled. Lawyers descended like vultures. The story leaked before lunch. But Daniel didn't stay to watch. He clocked out at dawn and went home to make breakfast for his daughter. She asked why he looked tired. He told her sometimes doing the right thing took extra energy. 2 weeks later, Daniel was called into HR. He expected termination. Instead, Evelyn was waiting. She slid a folder across the table. Medical coverage, a promotion to facilities supervisor, back pay for years of overlooked overtime. This doesn't erase what happened to you, she said. But it's a start. Daniel nodded. Thank you. She hesitated. The board wants to honor you publicly. Daniel shook his head immediately. No speeches. No headlines. Why? Because heroes who need applause aren't really helping, he said. They're performing. Evelyn smiled softly. Then what do you want? Daniel thought of his daughter, of quiet dinners, of dignity. Just let me work, he said. And don't forget who cleans up when powerful people make messes. She nodded. I won't. As Daniel left the office, employees looked at him differently, some with curiosity, some with respect. He didn't acknowledge it. Visibility had never been his goal. That night, as he locked up the building, Daniel paused by the conference room. The table was spotless. The room silent. He realized something then. Kindness wasn't loud. Courage didn't always announce itself. And justice didn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it pushed a mop. Sometimes it kept quiet until the truth was ready. And sometimes, the man everyone ignored was the only one brave enough to stand when it mattered most.